one of the other big stories that we've been following really for the past couple of weeks, I guess, the knowledge that Attorney General Eric Holder is soon going to be testifying before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. That's the committee that's been investigating Fast and Furious for almost a year now. And Holder's testimony comes up on Thursday. We're going to have special coverage here on NRA News as soon as that hearing concludes, which should be around 11 a.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Tune into NRAnews.com, log on, and we're going to have instant analysis and commentary for you right after that hearing has concluded. But in the build-up to the hearing, House Democrats on the Oversight and Government Reform Committee have issued a report that exonerates the Obama administration, exonerates the Department of Justice in Fast and Furious, and lays the blame at the feet of local officials in Arizona. Join us to talk about it, Howard Nimroff from PJ Media. Howard, good evening to you, sir.
Hey, Cam, how you doing?
I am great. Thanks for coming on the program tonight.
Well, thank you for having me aboard.
You bet. All right, so you've had a chance to look at this report that the Democrats on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee released earlier today. What's your take, Howard?
Well, the first thing is the title, of course, 5 years of gun walking in Arizona. They're trying to mix the Bush administration's tightly controlled anti-smuggling investigations, which were done with the Mexican government in order to nail drug smugglers. They're mixing that with Fast and Furious, where there is nobody working with the Mexican government.
Right.
And they're just letting guns walk over the border by the thousands. My first reaction was, when they have to lie like this, you know that everything that's following in this propaganda is false. But my favorite quote was on page 49, where Holder was quoted as saying, "This should never have happened, and it must never happen again." And, of course, my response to myself was, what exactly must never happen again? Getting caught?
Yeah. Well, I think, look, you can't help but ask that question because, we've not even gotten an answer to the most, I think one of the most basic questions of all, and that is, so how is this supposed to work exactly? I mean, just walk us through how Fast and Furious was going to be able to take down kingpins within the cartels. I mean, that's not a mistake. Clearly this operation was approved when anybody looking at this would say, well, wait a second. Once the guns get into Mexico, how are you guys going to track them? How are you going to make sure that they end up in the hands of these kingpins? And how are you going to take them down? We've not even heard Eric Holder offer an explanation about how this was supposed to work. And you're absolutely right, Howard. I think when they talk about the mistakes that were made, when they say this was a botched investigation, look, the only thing that was botched was that we found out. We weren't supposed to know about Fast and Furious. And after Brian Terry died in the Arizona desert, and you had ATF field agents say, enough is enough, we've got to put a stop to this, and they went public, that's when we learned about Fast and Furious. The Obama administration was not going to tell us about this.
No, and what was interesting was it was just a few days ago that email surfaced showing that somebody directly reporting to Holder knew
his deputy chief of staff
after Brian Terry was murdered that they were murdered. He was murdered with a Fast and Furious firearm.
That's right. I mean, the very day after Agent Terry was murdered, Holder's deputy chief of staff gets an email from Dennis Burke, then the U.S. attorney in Arizona. And, I got to tell you, Howard, too, the wording of the email was really interesting because Dennis Burke, writing to Holder's deputy chief of staff, says the guns found at the murder scene were part of the investigation that we were going to talk about. I didn't even refer to it as Fast and Furious, just said they're part of the investigation that we were going to talk about. To me, that means the U.S. attorney was going to have a conversation about Operation Fast and Furious with somebody in the Attorney General's office. And the Monty Wilkinson, then the deputy chief of staff, apparently would have been familiar enough with Fast and Furious that Burke didn't even have to mention it by name.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
But now both Dennis Burke and Monty Wilkinson say they can't recall having any conversations about this, which, again, it just strikes me as bizarre that the deputy chief of staff of the attorney general would learn that guns found at the murder scene of a Border Patrol agent were sold as part of a DOJ investigation, and not pass that knowledge on to his boss.
And then discuss it via email, and then forget they had that conversation.
Exactly.
Well, now we have printed evidence here. So if you're like suffering from memory loss, maybe it's time to retire. But we have to remember that Congressman Elijah Cummings is a longtime Maryland gun control proponent and Brady campaign endorsee.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have to remember that President Obama promised Brady campaign in a private meeting that he was working on their gun control agenda under the radar, and that Holder, within months of Obama taking office, Holder comes out and says, well, we need to reinstate the Clinton gun ban because it's going to help Mexico.
Right.
And then Fast and Furious began. So I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to get out in front of this and somehow undercut the congressional hearing coming up.
Right.
But we just need to keep getting the truth out. I think that's worked very well with many other gun control propaganda and memes that they've tried to put out over the years, like Dave Koppel just came out with the rebuttal in America's First Freedom on the For the Children argument.
Yeah.
We've been very successful, so I think we just need to keep going, and thank God we got NRA News because you're helping get the word out.
Well, listen, Howard, I really appreciate that, sir. It's great talking to you again, and hope we can do it very soon.
Appreciate being on.
All right. Thanks so much, Howard. Howard Nimrov from PJ Media with us on the program.